right, hello. We got Coach Human here. We got Coach D, as always, to my right. We got Coach Chatton here, head coach of Spoto High School in Florida. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about his program, things he's doing right now. And Coach, without further ado, can you give us a little background, your playing coaching career? And I know you were an Army veteran as well. Go into all that.
Well, I played. I'm from Georgia, South Georgia, so I played at one of the best programs in the country back then at Worth County. We were 51-7, played for a couple state titles, played for a Hall of Fame coach, Coach Miller up in Georgia. And then I never thought about getting into coaching. And then I, like you just alluded to, I went to the military. And then I saw him on leave one time, and he asked me what I was doing. He didn't know I was in the military, I guess, and he told me I was wasting my time. And I said, well, so what should I be doing? He said, you should be coaching. I said, I saw what you did, saw the time you put in, the work you put in, and stuff like that. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. So 25 years later, I'm doing exactly what he did. And, it's a calling, I never thought I'd be in it, but, I love it. I love what we can do with it. And, helping a young man reach his potential or something like that, to reach goals, life goals, not just football, but just long range goals and stuff like that. So we've been around 25 years, Florida, Georgia. Now I'm back in Florida at Spoto and Tampa, turned this program around. So, we've always taken over the programs that needed help. We've never taken over that ready-made program. We may have been offered that gig or something like that, but I think it's more valuable to take over that program and be a reason or one of the reasons that program gets good.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. I mean, it's also obviously very rewarding taking over a
It is.
program, building it up, because you and your staff have that stamp on it and
Right.
give them that opportunity. Um, so you've been at Spotted for the last 25 years?
No. I've been at Spoto
Okay.
for the April's 3 years.
Okay. So talk about like kind of different places you've been at in some of the things that you kind of came across on your rise, your coaching career.
Well, I started off at Fitzgerald. I worked for a Hall of Famer, Coach Pruitt. He's from Florida, moved to Georgia, and I moved back to Florida. So at Fitzgerald, I was my first coaching, like real coaching gig. Didn't get paid, but it was a coaching gig. And then after that, and I went to it's on the wall right here. I went back to St. Pius after that, and another major program in Atlanta, Georgia, with Paul Standard. And they run a different kind. They run a flex bone kind of offense, like a Georgia Tech offense. And then I got to do some things, call some plays there and stuff like that, get my feet wet. Made a couple runs at a title, never won one there though. And then I went to my alma mater, which was Worth County, for a year. Coach got fired, so started a brand new program in Georgia, and then went to Buchholz in Gainesville for a year. Then the head coach there got fired. So there was 3 straight stops where the head coach got fired my first year. So man, what's going on? And then I got my
Yeah,
first.
you're the bad luck charm, coach. You were the bad luck charm.
That's what one of the coaches said, but I'm still working. He's not. So just take that for what it's worth. But then I got my first head coaching job in Tampa at Leonard. Another bad program when I first got there. In 2 years, they went from 0-10 to 8-2 with us. So, we did some really good things there. Had a player go to the NFL from that school. Then went back home to Georgia for a year. Didn't like being back in Georgia. Then came back to Florida. And now we're here at Spoto. And we've really done some good things here so far.
As far as like some of the things that you learned at different places, what were some of the kind of key takeaways at each place before you got to Spoto?
Well, I think you try to take away the best things from, if you're a coordinator, you're a head coach, or an assistant coach. I think you got to find the best things that everybody does, and try to write those down in your journal or your logbook, what do you want to call it. Then also with the admin and the community, find out what makes each admin and each community tick, and just keep adding to your experience on that, where you can take the very best of the very best where you're coming from, and just continue to do that. And it's just like the way you treat people, the way you conduct yourself inside the school, the way you treat the admin, custodial staff, stuff of that nature. Just keep building that community inside of your own community, and just keep making it better.
Yeah, I think that's an important part. What was Spoto like when you first got there? What was their
I
Yeah.
uh, it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't the very best culture.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, they had a culture of losing, and then it took me. I think it took me a good solid year just to get them believing that they could win. They were so used to losing and losing big and losing every week. I think it was the hardest job here, just convincing the kids and giving them that belief that they could actually play good football.
Right. Right, because you had athletes, correct? Like
Oh
there
yeah, we
wasn't
had
it.
some athletes.
This wasn't like like the cupboard was not bare when you got there, for sure. And I think, like you said, it was a matter of they had that we always lose type of
Right.
mentality. So that's and I really feel like because you and Dave are very similar in the fact that you've always taken over programs that had to be kind of rebuilt, right? Or
Right.
you kind of had to take a different track as to what it always was there. Right.
Right.
So, do you think was the hardest part in terms of, I know you had to change that culture, but kind
Right.
of maybe, or what did you do to kind of change that within it to make them believe that, hey, we can win games?
You just got to show up with just unmatched energy every day and commitment and trust, and you got to get to know them. And it's got to be more on lines of old coach told me a long time ago that it doesn't really matter what you know, it matters what you do with them. It matters the
Right.
trust factor with them, the commitment to them. And because like I always say, it's a cliche that people, some of my coaches even laugh at me about it. We're in the kid business. If we don't have kids, we don't have a job. And so we got to nurture the kid, the young man, the young person. And then when you get them to trust you, they'll start doing some of those things that, that these teenage kids don't really want to do, like buy into the weight room, buy into getting sleep, buy into acting right, buy into hanging around with the right kids in school
Yep.
and out of school. And then, you got to win the parents over too. The parents, they want their kid to be at the best school possible in the best place possible for the most, publicity possible and stuff like that. So, you got to make sure that you're on the same page with them as well and just keep winning the culture of the area. And we've done a really good job of that. And my coaches give me a lot of credit, but I don't do any of this stuff by myself. And that's got to be one of our main things that, they pat me on the back and say, you're doing this, but I got 8 other guys that are right
Yeah.
there with me and they build these relationships with the kids. They're out there at practice, they're out there in the summer. So we just got to keep nurturing the program.
Yeah. And you mentioned summer because summer down there, I mean, it's summer all the time down there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, which is also, I feel like a huge benefit. And we've been talking about this a lot more lately, and now you've coached in different states and,
Right.
The ability, especially in Florida, to kind of switch gears here a little bit, to practice, to have spring practice, right? And the ability to, Christmas Day, these guys could go out to a park and throw a 7-on-7 if they wanted
Right.
to. So, how much of an advantage do you think that plays into, especially when you're trying to turn a program around, just the ability to have that spring session of actual real football where you get to put pads on and ultimately, if you'd like to finish with a scrimmage or however you want to do it. How do you feel that benefits those guys?
Well, for me answering that question, it's all I know because I played in Georgia, I coached in Georgia, then I coached in Florida. So a lot of you, like you and I have had a lot of talks over the couple of years and stuff like that. And a lot of my guys around the other parts of the country, I'm surprised. I don't know if appalled is the right word, but I don't understand
No,
why
it's a
more
great word.
states.
It's a great word. I would love if everybody was as appalled about it as I am.
I don't understand why other states don't adopt it because it's so
Right.
beneficial to your program. I mean, we're April 28th. We start 18 days of spring ball, and this year, last year, just to piggyback off of last year, we finished up with 44 players, I think, and now we went to the playoffs at Spoto last year. Now we got 85 kids for spring practice. And
It's
so it's going to be
phenomenal.
beneficial to get all of those kids as many reps as possible. And then we transition from spring into the summer. So then we got another 45 to 50 days, depends on you want to do some extra stuff. And then plus their whatever they do at the park by themselves or with each other.
Right.
So we got, about 65 to 70 days before fall camp even starts. And then we got another month before the season starts. So we're talking about, 80 some odd, 90 days of getting all these young kids as many reps as possible. And that's beneficial to the program. That's how you build the program. And this will be the
Right,
first
right.
year that I've been here. In the 3 years I've been here, this will be the first year we've had a JV team. That's going to be
Nice.
beneficial for those guys to get 5 to 6 games of more playing experience to learn the system. And then if we need to pull somebody up, we can pull somebody up. But spring, I think everybody in the country should do spring.
I wish.
I don't know if it's a money issue. I don't know if it's an admin issue. I don't know what it is, but it's just
I think
beneficial
it's
to the
more of
program.
taking from spring sports issue in a lot of places where,
Okay.
Yeah.
where they're worried about. I don't agree with it, but they worry about someone going away, taking, I don't know, track, baseball, lacrosse, something like
Track,
that.
yeah, lacrosse.
So two sport athletes
But
not
just to
being
piggyback off of that, like right now, track is coming to an end down here. Baseball is still in full effect. One of my best receivers coming up this year, he's a baseball player. He'll finish up baseball in about a week and a half to 2 weeks into spring football.
Right.
So I'll still get him for a week and a half to 10 days.
the issue in the North is
Schedule.
they don't start spring sports till the end of March. So
Like,
'cause
Coach,
it's
our
cold.
first day of spring sports was last Monday.
So they won't actually get like an opportunity.
Yeah.
They won't finish till
It's
June.
wild.
That's
They don't
that's
fit. Yeah,
part of the
they.
issue. They would almost have
the
to take
schedule.
they would have to take but there are places that do it. So there are places that do it. Like even Connecticut has a week of spring ball. I think 2 weeks of spring football. They just do it at the end, like in June or something like that. And you could do it. You just got to adopt how you do it and adapt how you do it to the area and what's going on. Talk about from a recruiting standpoint how that helps having spring ball.
Well, once again, it's just these kids are used to it. These kids don't know anything other than having a spring ball season. Like we've got a kid from the last 2 years. We got 2 kids back-to-back years from Indiana. They like, Coach, what is spring ball like? How many games do we play? I'm like, dude, it's just 19 days of practicing, and then we end up with a purple and black game or purple and silver game, whatever you want to call it. But Indiana didn't do it, I guess, because he was just unfamiliar to spring ball. They thought him and his parents, and I'm not even trying to be funny with them. They just thought it was a whole new football season, like we're playing 3 or 4 games, because they never understood what spring ball was. And so I had to explain to his parents and him, it's just we're practicing for 3.5 weeks, and then we play a little inter squad game and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is with us, it keeps our kids involved. It keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them away from anything outside of school, because we don't get out of practice till 6:30, so they're tired by the time it's time to go home and do their homework and stuff like that. So it's really beneficial for us. And plus, like I said a few minutes ago, the biggest thing is we're going to be a lot younger in certain positions this year, so it's going to be invaluable for all the reps those young guys get.
How does it benefit those guys recruiting wise going to that next level? If you have any of those guys in terms of, the college calendar or college coaches coming in and getting to watch those guys, how does it benefit them in any way?
We'll average about 60 to 70 schools come through during spring ball. And some will watch practice, some just want to see you, some want to meet a couple of kids. They want to all meet our best of the best kid. But then, like I tell my younger kids, like, if they're coming to see this certain kid and they're coming to practice, then they're seeing you. Doesn't mean you got to do anything to try to catch their attention. But now he said, "Oh, who is this other 6'2" kid that we don't know about? Or who is this fast kid that we don't know about?" So it's beneficial to everybody because, like I said, we'll get 60 to 70 schools through here during spring.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how many schools, it really is.
And that's coming from Jersey, where there's so many schools in a small area, right, too, Dave? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they hit on all that, but literally, what are they doing? They're calling a kid out from class. They're sitting in an office and, like, maybe having a conversation. If anything, just picking up transcripts of kids that they have heard about, right? So they're not actually getting to go out and see, like, guys doing things on the field, right? Like, they can walk through a weight room
and go through indie, go through a team period, go through a one-on-one period. They can see how they stretch, how their body language is. They can see everything.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What has anything changed from a recruiting standpoint over the last couple of years with like the transfer portal and NIL? Any of those kind of things changed for you? Has anything changed as far as guys they're looking at, number of guys they're looking at?
Well, I think high school recruiting is going down across the board everywhere, I believe. I mean, everybody. I mean, you can't get mad at the college coach for trying to. Hey, if they're the guy that's played 2 or 3 years of college ball, he's ready to go. He's ready to play now, as opposed to a high school senior. I want the high school senior to get recruited,
Right.
but it's definitely went down. It's definitely harder getting the kid. The upper echelon kids, the 4 and 5 star kids, they're going anywhere. But now you got
Yep.
those really, really good 3-star kids, even those 2-star kids that can really play football. Now they're going one level or 2 levels further down than they should be going. And then they say, "Oh, coach, well, I'm not getting recruited. Why am I doing this? Da, 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 da. Should I go to another school?" I'm like, it's happening everywhere. And we do a pretty
Yeah.
good. We do a really good job of getting our kids recruited, but it's just the nature of the beast now. That NIL stuff, and then the transfer portal. I think the transfer portal is worse than the NIL.
Right. Right. Because they can jump in anytime. Doesn't matter. And you have guys that are getting 6th, 7th years and beyond, which means it's very hard for an 18-year-old to compete with a 23-year-old, 24-year-old from a recruiting standpoint. Just not even talking talent, just talking physically, a man. You know what I mean? Versus a
Boy.
teenager. Yep, exactly. What about like so? So have you had to adapt some of the things that you set with your parents expectation wise with recruiting? Have you talked to them about some things that are different? Because so many parents are confused by it.
Right.
They're like, why am I not getting recruited? Like a few years ago, Johnny got recruited by here.
Right. Well, I tell the parents, we're getting ready to have our spring parent meeting actually Wednesday. So it's a part of the presentation, and then you'll get those singular calls from dads that really hold their kid in a different spotlight than he may be, and that he thinks he might be a level or two higher than he actually goes, but stuff of that nature. But the parent, I think there needs to be an educational factor across the board with them, and more podcasts and more literature and more meetings with them for them to understand what goes on. We try to tell them exactly, hey, recruiting is on a different level now. Like we just said, they're going to take that transfer portal kid that maybe got 2 or 3 years or 4 years experience already, because those coaches are going to get fired if they go 7-5 or 8-4.
Yep.
So they got to make sure they can't wait for that young kid out of high school to develop year 2, year 3, then play. They got to have somebody can plug and play right now. And everybody's parent, right, wrong, or indifferent, they hold their kid into a different light that he can really, really play. But it's all about fit. And like I told one of my kids just went to Ferris State, which is probably the best D2 team in the country. I said, man, you're gonna go over there, you're gonna get about 20 pounds bigger, you're gonna win a national title in D2 before you graduate. Just go
Yep.
enjoy that experience and enjoy playing for a really good program and stuff like that. But just recruiting, you just got to keep talking to them, because they get frustrated. I get frustrated when I got a top shelf linebacker that's a 27 right now. I'm like, guys, y'all got to offer this guy. Oh, it's too early. It's never too early to offer him. They're just waiting if there's something better out there than this guy. But his mom is real good about it. But some other mom or dad,
Oh
they
yeah.
said, like, Coach, why is my kid doing this? Why is
Yep.
my kid doing this? Or like you
Or
just
it's your
mentioned,
fault.
like, or you just mentioned, like, oh well, this kid got recruited 2 years ago, but my kid's better than this kid. Well, that school doesn't have a void at that position any longer. It's all about
Yeah.
fit.
Right.
And I also try to tell them it's all about the academic piece as well. You got to go somewhere where you fit in, because football's not going to last forever. You're going to be done with football before you're done with your career, your academic or your life career. But it's just that ongoing piece where you got to keep talking to them, keep communicating, have open lines of communication with them, just to make sure they understand what's going on, because they're going to get frustrated at some point in time.
No, there's no doubt about it. They are going to get frustrated. Because I know in Florida they have the ability to kind of move within schools a lot. Is that something? You're smiling, so obviously that's
The
an
transfer
issue.
portal is alive and well in high school football in
Yes.
Florida.
It's the wild, wild west in Florida.
That's what I
Talk
hear.
about how you
I
manage,
mean,
because that might be the harder thing to manage than even the
Well, the good thing is, and I don't know if it's a testament to me or the coaching staff or the program that we have, but in 20 plus years, almost 25 years, I've only lost 2 upper echelon players.
right.
One of them was a dad just didn't like me, and that's
Right.
a story behind closed
No,
doors that we need to put out there. And then I think I told you, Jay, when we talked to you, just the kid had 5 Power 5 offers as a freshman, and Dad just didn't like me for whatever reason. I don't know.
Right. That happens.
listen,
And then-
sometimes we're just, we are who we are, buddy. It's
Yeah.
all good.
And then, this last kid, he had 14 Power 4 offers, and they wanted to go somewhere for their senior year. Like, hey, go where you want to go. Like, we're going to be fine. That's why everybody will understand this isn't a 1 or 2 person program. We have enough talent that we'll be fine. Like I told the kids and the coaches, if I'm not worried, you should not be worried. But the transfer portal it's the wild, wild west in Florida.
So how does it is the actual verbiage and language on it, Coach? Is it you can literally pick up and go? Because in Jersey it has a lot to do with address or what year you are within school. They implemented something last year in New Jersey where basically every kid has one free transfer where you can literally go to any school that you want and you don't have to sit out. But if you're a senior, you have to sit 22 days, right? If you transfer like from your junior into your senior year. So Florida, it's wherever, whenever.
Well, it changes every year, it seems.
See, there's another thing, right?
And that there's wiggle room, there's red tape in that thing that a lot of people are really good at getting over and getting around it. But it's supposed to be a choice program. If you fill out the paperwork and they accept, you can go, as long as that school has room and stuff of that nature. But there's so many ways of getting around it. So I mean, we can talk all day about that. But it's just you can almost go where you want to go as long as the paperwork's done.
Got it.
So, and that's I'd pretty much probably just leave it at that for right now.
Right.
No, I get it.
As far as like how you started coming around with like the system that you want to do as far as offensively and defensively, what is the systems? Your base system. Is there a base system? And then how do you constantly evolve it each year to your players? What are some of the things you do?
Well, we run a spread no huddle. We go as fast as we can possibly go. And, game depicting on what we do, game time situations, down in this, fourth quarter score, stuff like that. But I started off years ago as a wing T guy because the first coach I worked for was a wing T guy. But I was on the defense side of the ball then. But my head coach from high school told me if you ever want to be a head coach, you need to switch back over to offense because they're always going to hire the offensive guy before a defensive guy. So I switched back over to offense, started coaching lines, started coaching running backs, receivers. So I coached every position on offense. And then my first year as a head coach, I run a version of a wing, but with some spread concepts. And then I worked with another guy prior to that was wide open, like threw it 50, 60 times a game. I'm never going to do that. But, I married that stuff together. And me and one of my friends got together and just created some stuff. And we made it all hand signals where the kids can get it and get it fast and stuff of that nature. But, going back to the scheme and the kid, you got to marry it to whatever your kids can do at that time. Now, we're always going to be some version of spread, but that doesn't mean we're going to throw it 40, 50 times a game. We usually throw it about 26 to 30 times a game. That means we got another 28 to 35 runs a game. So it's usually pretty balanced. But, you do what your kids can do. If we got a vertical passing attack, we're going to go vertical a lot. If we got a good screen package, if we got a good RPO package, stuff of that nature, we're still building that RPO stuff because my receiver coach, all that cat wants to talk about is RPOs. He'll probably see this at some point in time, so I'll get a bad message from him. But he wants to RPO everything. But, we just marry it to whatever the kids can do. And on defense, it depends on what kind of lineman you want. If you get an odd or even front, of course, and then what kind of coverage you can play behind it. But our 3 linebackers, we can probably play anytime we want to because we'll probably have the best 3 linebackers in the state as a group, not as one-on-one, but as a group. That group's going to be special. So we're going to build it around them and be really, really blitz happy, but also play sound behind it.
No doubt. When you guys get players that come up, to the high school, is there a feeder that you guys have, like the rec feeder? Is it middle school? Is it like AYF program? Is it what are some of the things that come to your high school? Like how do you guys build that relationship with the younger kids coming through?
Well, we have the middle schools that feed into our high school,
Okay.
but there's nothing stopping those parents from taking those kids somewhere else.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
and then there's so many rules and regulations in this county of I can't just go show up at the feeder school and talk to them at lunch or talk to the admin or stuff like that.
Shit.
There's rules and regulations of when we can and can't talk to people and what you can and
Wow.
can't do with that. We can't have a middle school night at the stadium to invite all those kids in. And then there's a
Wow.
there's a little league, a recreation
Right.
league, like right down the street from the school. And the best thing about that, the guy that just took that over, I know him personally. So he's trying to get us more acclimated into that, come out there. And it's never going to be where I go out there and talk to a
Right.
12 to 14-year-old kid. I'm just going to have my staff out there and just watch the games and have a presence. Because I'm one of those guys, and everybody says the same thing. But I'm one of those guys that I got to see myself in a mirror and be comfortable with that. I'm never going to recruit a 12 to 17-year-old kid to come play football. Whatever shows up. We're going to coach them to the best of our ability, and we're going to win our football games. But I can't be like some of these other guys and just go out there and beg a 12 to 15-year-old kid to come to my school. That's not in me. That's not in my DNA.
That's interesting. So you don't have like parent meetings or anything like that where you have the 8th grades or 7th grades in
Now what the athletic director, now he can send over calendars, he can send over stuff like that, and then those 8th graders that are coming in to high school the next year, like I think it's after June 1st, then they can be incorporated into that parent meeting where they can understand what's going on for the summer.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really,
That's eye opening. We had never heard that, right?
Yeah.
That's some new information for us. Like,
Now that's not everywhere in
up
Florida.
here,
A lot of that stuff is depicted just on the county we're in. That's not Florida wide.
Oh, that's your county in
Got it.
particular.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules in this county.
Damn,
Right.
Coach.
That's the limit.
Wow.
That's the limit. That's the limit. Guys go like 50 different coaches going to different schools, right? Because they could choose and stuff like that. I get. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Wow. That's really, really, really different. Very different. Because in New Jersey, you're gonna go down to the middle school and talk to the kids there, and you're gonna have a parent meeting and talk to them. And
now, when I was in West Palm a few years ago, we had a couple parent meetings a year.
Right.
I mean, a couple meetings at the feeder school a year. I think we had 3 feeder schools down there. And like I bought all the admin down there, T-shirts with our logo and stuff on it. They wore it on game day Fridays, and those kids come to my school in West Palm. But it was more, and we had a middle school night every home game, every home game. We had like 3 or 4 middle schools come.
Well, it's amazing that you can't have like the middle school kids to watch a game. Like I don't know how they get familiar with the program without being around it a little bit. But if it's the same way for everybody, then it's fair. It actually makes your job a little easier. And
the rules say it's the same for everybody.
Okay, so there's some guys not following the rules, is what you're saying.
There's some and some not.
Got it. Makes sense.
I think it's the same everywhere, Coach. I think it's the same everywhere. You're not the only one dealing with it.
Yeah, Florida's wild. As far as like when you got how does scheduling work in Florida? So or at least where you are, do you schedule most by size of school or is it proximity? Well, how is that?
I think it's a little bit of both now because they tried that metro suburban stuff a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was a total joke. It was a total joke, waste of time.
Absolutely.
Now, back when I was here the first time, or from Georgia to Florida the first time, and then usually it's by classification. So 7A, 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A on down. And now, like in our district, we're a 5A school, and one of our schools in our district is a 7A school.
The district thing in Florida is different too.
Yeah,
the district
thing
all the
time too. It changed, but they try to keep those districts in Florida. I think proximity is a good word for that because in Georgia you have a district game, you may go 2.5 hours down the road.
Right
here, we may go. It may be 20 minutes down the road, but it may be an hour because Tampa traffic is just atrocious. It's bad. So they do a pretty good job of getting us together. And the teams we play in our district, like one of them, Tampa Bay Tech's in our district. They're one of the best teams in Florida. But,
Right.
and then it's Leonard, and then it's East Bay, and Leonard and Lato is in there. So, we can compete with them, and, we're trying to compete with Tampa Bay Tech. They're, like I said, they're one of the most talented and one of the best teams in Florida. But, we don't have an issue with that because if you're going to make it to the playoffs, you got to play somebody good to great anyway.
Exactly.
So you don't want to sit there and beat up on everybody and then get to the playoffs and get smoked. Like last
Yep.
year, we got to the playoffs for the first time in this school since I think it was 14 years. And then our reward was playing Lakeland, who was the number 10 ranked team in the country.
The Dreadnoughts.
And they did what they needed to do against us. And, people were saying, oh, y'all got beaten. Like, okay, they beat everybody. So it's not just Spoto get beat. They beat everybody.
Yeah. And listen, it's like, my buddy down at American Heritage, right? Like he stacks his schedule, regular season with power, because and then when they get to the playoffs, it's like, all right, well, the first four rounds, like, we're good. That last one, okay, we're going to have to get right. But usually like the playoffs for them are a lot easier than what's the regular season,
Right. But that's like the top programs in like Venice is one of the best programs. Tampa Bay Tech does it. Much Armwood, stuff of that nature. Like CCC down there and Cardinal Mooney. They try to play the best of the best. Now, some of those teams just won't play those teams I just mentioned.
100%.
They just won't do it. And then, one of my buddies, I'm not going to mention the name, but he's at an affluent private school that plays public ball. They're even offering people, $5,000 expenses. Stuff like that. They still can't get a full schedule because people just don't want to play them.
Yeah.
No way. People aren't signing up
to play
St.
great
Thomas
competition
Aquinas.
sooner or later, though.
Yeah, that's true. And it's probably part of the issue is that because it's easier to move between schools. If you already have been a power, it's easier for them to attract other kids that are looking to get in, and they get mad because this kid was on my team last year and now he's over here next year, and that kind of like I don't want to play against my guy. I'm assuming that's what it becomes. Like I don't want to keep playing against guys that I built up, which obviously that's a never ending issue, I guess. But as far as development, so when kids come into your program, what does that look like? What is your development program as far as continue to get them physically, bigger, faster, stronger type of deal?
I think I'm a little bit different. I got to find out their headspace first. What are their goals? What are their mindset? What do you actually want to do? You can sit there and get on Twitter and social media and say you're a dog, say you're grinding and stuff of that nature. But what do you actually want to accomplish? What are you trying to do? I mean, I'm not going to name any name. I had a kid to come in a couple years ago. This kid's about 6'2", about 260. He's like, Coach, I played running back at my last school. Like, son, you're not playing running back in Florida. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Just not going to happen. And then, after he was mad at me for a week, he said, Coach, where do you think I can play? I said, you're 260, you're 6'2". Like, you're probably going to have your hand in the dirt. So that point in time, he didn't want to play. So I got to find out what they're thinking, where their headspace is. And then all the younger kids, you got to get them in the weight room, and you got to really break it down to them and we want to start off with some low amounts of weight, because I even think when those kids show up, they're already nervous to be in there with a junior or a senior that's just throwing up the gym. And so then they're going to get shell shocked and they're going to try to go hide in that corner, and they don't want to lift in front of the other kids because they're going to get picked on because they're just not physically strong. I'm like, God, you're 14, this guy's 17, and he's a grown man already, or he's 18, a senior, and he's been lifting weights for 3.5, almost 4 years. So there's going to be a difference. So you got to make them comfortable. You got to split them up in their groups. I mean, you got to be real cognizant of bringing those kids along at a pace that they're comfortable with, or you're going to lose them because they'll get embarrassed. They'll get, shy, and they'll just tank it and quit. So you really, that headspace part, and then the emotional part of being in a weight room with other guys, you really got to take advantage of that and have some good people around you to build what they need around them to get them to a point where now we can start putting on muscle and mass.
Yeah, it's and then do you have like off-season workouts in this? How does that work in the summer? Are you guys allowed to work with them in summer? And
yeah.
Okay.
Now what we do, we have an 8th-period football class. That's the last period of the day.
Oh, here we go. There's the other conversation. Damn it! Like we don't have it. Not happening.
So I get them eighth period, and so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are usually our lift days during the school day, and then Tuesday and Thursdays are our days we go out during that class, and we have different groups. It's like a player-led practice, pretty much what it is. And then we'll do our 7-on-7 stuff as that well. But summer it'll go Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 11:30. And then they get breakfast and get lunch before they leave and stuff like that. But we get an hour worth of weights, an hour worth of conditioning or skill development, stuff like that. And then we do our 7-on-7. Then we do, our schematic stuff where we're walking through. You can't have pads and helmets and stuff like that out in the summer, but you can go out there and walk through and talk through and run through stuff to just keep cooking the scheme in. And seeing
Yep.
kids move, seeing how kids develop, seeing how they're picking up coverage and stuff like that. And we do a really good job with that. And that's everybody in the state. I mean, the time we get with the kids is really appreciated, and it really develops our kids in our programs.
There's no doubt about it. Are you big on conditioning them? Are you big on speed, just developing more and more speed? Are you big on the weight room? Like, what are kind of the core things that you really trying to build with, athletically within your program?
Well, the weight room is so big to us. We even try to have a lot of our team meetings in the weight room to get those guys used to just staying in there. And then we want to get in there and get what we got to do and get out and go outside. We have to be conditioned. But I also think as I've gotten older, used to as a younger head coach, younger coordinator, younger assistant coach, I just thought these cats need to run and run and run and run and run. But now as you get older and get more experience and stuff like that and get newer and brighter ideas, and then, you let your staff have some say in what we're doing, I think you can condition them through specific position drills and still get that football movement, that football mentality. But if you do it at a rapid pace, I think you can still get that conditioning you need. Now, we're going to do some running, team running and stuff like that. We're going to do some speed, agility, stuff like that. But I think you can actually get a lot of it done through specific position drills if you do it correctly.
Right, because you have them going full speed on that.
Right.
So,
and plus it's football movement, and plus it's 3 to 5 seconds.
Right.
Movement. You're not going to sit out there and run a mile on the football
Right.
field.
Well, exactly. Right. It's all about
Absolutely.
developing that explosion and the speed.
Right.
And if you definitely don't want them jogging anything, so you want them going fast for everything. Yeah, really good stuff. Derek, you have anything else that I missed?
Coach, I appreciate you, man. That was awesome. I mean, like I said, we've known each other a long time, and I'm happy to finally get you on. Especially guys, we love to talk to guys that have gone from either different states or, guys like yourself that are program builders, kind of do it the right way, with the kids really in the forefront of everything about the development on and off the field, and that's the one thing I've always taken away from you is that, it's about developing the kid himself, right, and then the program comes from that, right? And you really gear your program around what you have individually on the team itself. So I appreciate you taking the time, buddy. I wish you nothing but the best. If we could ever do anything for you, please let us know.
I appreciate both of you guys for having me on.
No, it's great talking with you, Coach. Really, really appreciate it. Which state, by the way, has better football, Georgia or Florida?
Oh, shit, Coach.
It just hit me before I let you go because you played at Georgia.
I told you I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but there it is, buddy.
I think, oh, my.
Well, Georgia used to not, right? Obviously, overall, but the last, I would say 5 or 6 years, Georgia's the biggest emerging state as far as talent growth in football. Especially up in that Gwinnett and those counties around there. So it used to not be comparable, but there's really some good players now.
Well, see, I'm from Georgia. I played in Georgia, coached in Georgia. I'm a Floridian now. I've been out here for almost 16 years now. My dad's family is from Texas, so it's Georgia, Texas. So let's just say that there are great programs in both states. There are bad programs in both states. There's good coaching in both states, and there's bad coaching in both states. I think Georgia has more resources for their coaches and players. Across their facilities are just ridiculous. I mean, even the small bad schools have Division II facilities. I don't know. I mean, if Florida is ever going to reach that, I do know that Florida has a national product that needs to be enhanced more, needs to be seen more, needs to allow these top echelon teams to travel across the country to go play these bigger programs, to get a bigger footprint in that national recruiting. I know that every year Florida is either 1 or 2 in the national recruiting map for 4 and 5 stars and that nature. I think there's more Florida guys in the pros right now than any other state. So I sound like a homer, but there's good to great in both states. I think there's great quality football in both states, just like there's bad and poor quality in both states. But I think just resource alone, Georgia is by far
Ahead.
superior to everybody. I think they've even caught up with Texas, other than the size of the stadiums.
Right.
You're never gonna get a 60, 70,000 seat stadium in Georgia, I don't think. But
Right.
by facilities and by resources and stuff of that nature, Georgia is top notch.
Why does Florida not have the same level of event? I'm ignorant to it, so that's why I'm asking. I really don't understand.
I think even us down here are ignorant to it because, like I just said, you have a national product.
Right.
And then anytime you have a national product that people want all of your kids, I mean, we're gonna have every school in America come through our state and they're gonna go to multiple, couple hundred schools to see all these kids and get all these relationships built. But I just think some way somebody's got to get involved to enhance the nature of the product to get it seen more, because there's so many quality football players in the state.
Oh, there's no doubt about
Right.
it.
And plus,
Which is why
if they
every
don't
state
do
comes
something,
in.
and if they don't do something soon, all the good to great coaches are going to go to those South Carolinas, Georgias, and Texas to get paid.
And
you're
that's
starting
what's
to see
happened
that.
a lot.
Yeah,
That's what's
you're
happened
starting
a
to
lot.
see it. You're starting to see
Even
it.
South Carolina, where there's not as good a football, but they have
pay
more resources there,
Yeah.
right?
They're willing to pay.
I've talked to a couple of people in South Carolina over the last 5, 6, 7 years. You get paid in South Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't teach anything.
North Carolina has a similar problem to Florida from
Yeah.
that standpoint, where they haven't invested as much, other than the private schools. They haven't invested in the public schools as much, and they a lot of those coaches are going across the border to South Carolina, where they are paying more. They have some better facilities and stuff.
Right.
It's really interesting, because it must start at the whatever the investment level is and whatever they're doing with how they're, I'm guessing how they're allocating tax money or whatever, right? So
now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this before we got off. Now, there's a faction it's payfloridacoaches.com or something like that.
Yep.
So there is a General Assembly vote coming up in April, the first week of April. They're trying to get us on par with Georgia high school supplements and stuff of that nature. And something's going to happen. Something positive is going to happen. We don't know the number. We don't know when.
Right.
But, April is going to be – the first week of April is going to be very telling for us, because even the governor is on board with getting the coaches paid more money because of the hours we put in, the time we put in, the commitment we put in.
Oh, God, yeah.
There's a lot of backlash from, of course, every other faction there is, like the teachers union and stuff like that, because, we're just football coaches. They don't think we do anything for the kids. But, our classrooms are on a field with 10,000 people watching us every Friday night. We get an observation every Friday night. So we're public. We don't have 10,000 people coming to your classroom and critiquing your every move, how you teach them algebraic equation. But everybody's important. Matthews are important, teachers are important, coaches are highly important, and plus the influence we have on and off the field with these young men. Because say a teacher calls me or emails me or texts me about a kid or a football player acting out in class,
right?
They expect me to handle that. So we're going to handle that. And we're going to get that kid on track, sitting in the first row. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. Stuff like of that nature. We're going to handle that situation. So the pay for the coaches, they're really trying to do something, and something positive is going to come out of that thing in April 8th and 9th, the General Assembly. So we'll see what the state values us as and how much they want to keep the quality coaches in the county or in the state. So that's going to be something. I mean, Derek, you'll see it on my Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter, so you'll see something positive or negative on there about that pretty soon.
It's definitely something that needs to be done, because look, I'm not saying nobody's breaking the bank here in Jersey either, but when it comes to comparison level, when you're looking at just like numbers, I mean, Florida, it's not even close. You know what I mean? Like they're
when you and I first met. We're not going to throw any numbers on live, but, when you and I first met and you come down and we were on the board, and then, we were talking about the supplements. And, to be honest, it's just something you couldn't have done at that time, because it just wasn't good. I was going to hire you, that.
Yeah.
It's just something you couldn't do because of the supplement.
Right. I mean, it's just, and look, I even look at, like you said, like not only is it, the whole just sheer numbers in general, right? But it's also workload as well. It's like, look, we could get you to that number, but you're going to be teaching classes or you're going to be doing this. The extra stuff that gets thrown onto it, right, ultimately takes away from everything else. And it's really difficult to see it. And I'm glad, the movement is the way it is. Like you said, I think something positive it will come from it. And, at the end of the day, man, we're just hoping for the best for you. So, but even something better is even a little something makes it better than what it is. But it has to be figured out.
When we get off here, I'll share some information to you privately about what they're looking at. It's
Right.
substantial. It's they've done a really good job. And if we hit that number, there's gonna be a lot of happy coaches in Florida. If not, just get us something that's equivalent to what the work we put in.
Right. It's not like there's somebody's asking for something astronomical. It's like, dude, just allow us to kind of make a living.
I think it's a fair number for everybody.
Right. Awesome.
No doubt about it. There's really some great points, Coach. Really, it's amazing that the really, really good stuff just came right at the end. I know that was really good. That was great. It just kind of kicked at me. I was like, oh man, he's from Georgia. I'm curious his thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
I'll get heat from that. I had to say the right thing because some of my players are going to see this like, Coach, what are we talking about here? And I've got some very, very good players.
And look, and we have this discussion. We have the discussion all the time when we're comparing and ranking states and doing all those other things. It's always, the big three that's always been California, Texas, Florida always comes up. But, in recent years, Georgia is kind of coming full steam ahead, right? In terms of this is a place where it's got to happen.
They are getting massive transfers from other states.
Right. People want to move to Georgia for some reason.
Yeah. Because, the quarterbacks seem to be coming from everywhere for Georgia.
Right.
They're coming from California. They're coming from Michigan. I don't know what kind of deals they're cutting, but they're coming out of the woodwork and coming from everywhere. Now, Georgia's got talent. They got plenty, and they're quarterback heavy in Georgia. But they're position heavy in Georgia. They got kids everywhere, no matter what it is. Because everybody equates us to having just a speed. There's more than speed in Florida. There's great quarterback play. There's great receivers. Right. There's linemen. There's players. That speed thing, it's a Florida thing. It's a I don't know if it's just it's not a rumor because everybody's got somebody on your team has terrific speed, but there's more than just speed in Florida.
Right. It's the same thing. Look, like New Jersey, we get all the time. It's like, hey, you're going to Jersey for an offensive lineman, a tight end, a linebacker, right? A lot of guys are going to take the third best corner from a Florida school than they would maybe a one corner from Connecticut or Jersey, right? It's just you go to certain factions for certain skill abilities, right? But the Florida speed thing, I mean, to me, Florida's got everything.
Well, you get when the coaches come out, the college coaches come out here, they'll tell you they'll try to get 7 to 8 Florida kids a year on their roster. And so they want that many kids because they want the speed factor, but they also want other kids in Florida. I can go to Ohio, I can go to Pennsylvania, I can go to Michigan, I can go to some of these D2, D3 schools up there, and you still got people from Florida still competing at a high level. And like Toledo, I'm friends with their head coach and coordinator. They stay in Florida. They want every Florida kid they can get.
Absolutely.
Makes perfect sense.
Hard to spin that weather.
No doubt about it.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. Really, really great insight, Coach. Really, really some great insight.
I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.
Have a great day, Coach. All right.
See you.
All right, bye. Great stuff, man. Really, really good. I was curious about the Florida.
That was one of the reasons I was like, look, I want him coming on because I know he's been both places. He's been at a high level, both places. And this program he took over in Spoto, it was a tough kind of go around in terms of the school itself. It's a rough area. So he's got those kind of guys, but he does a great job, man. It's really all about the kids for him. Guys say that, but he really
Yeah, no doubt. You know what else is really wild to me is the fact that they have a county rule where you can't go and talk to the middle school. That's crazy.
Probably deters people from taking jobs within that county. in terms of,
Yeah.
hey, should I take this job? Well, look, I can't even talk to middle school guys. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and then obviously there are guys that are probably cheating, right? So
100%.
which is wild too, in a sense, like trying to understand that. That would
And the
probably be a
appeal,
whole. What's that?
right? Like, you got to make your program appeal, right, for those kids to not up and leave, or
Right.
kids that, I mean, ultimately, you have a good program. You're going to have kids that want to go there if you put out a good product.
Yeah.
Right, regardless. So it kind of works both ways, right? I mean, look, just have a good program that does the right things and whatever. And if you stand by that, people will come. And there's always going to be guys that want to leave. You can't stop a parent or a kid. If they want to go, I love his approach. Do you want to go? Go. Like, I'm not going to force you to be here. We'll be okay with what we have. We trust in the way we do things, and we'll rock.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it now, because you are going to have people that are going to move. So regardless, and that's the best way to handle it. All right, next week we are
Tuesday.
I think I'm gonna have Rob Ambrose. I'm just working out the times with him.
Yeah, let me know, because next Tuesday or next week we're already we got a next week already.
I sent him Thursday. Do you have Thursday?
Thursday at 10, we have the head coach from Rochester University.
Okay, so
And then Tuesday we have. So Wednesday's good. Wednesday or Friday.
Wednesday or Friday. Okay. All right, let me send that to him. All right, perfect. All right, till next time.
Yes, sir.